Welcome, everybody. We're going to be working on the Module 7 lab, and I'm just going to do a quick read through of the instructions here so we know what we're doing. And it says, congratulations, you've decided to start your own business. You've been working on your product for a long time, and now you're ready to sell it. Write a program that displays your products and allows the user to view product descriptions about each product until they choose to exit. All right, so here are the requirements for the program: that we create an abstract class called product that contains the following: four properties: a name, a size, a price, and a description. We want two constructors, a no-arg constructor, and a for-arg constructor. We also want an overridden two-string method that prints all four properties. Then we need to create a class for your specialized product. Can be any school appropriate product you want. And the person who submitted already, I think, used the example of a backpack. I thought that was, appropriate. It could be a laptop. It could, I don't know what kind of product you would think of for school, but it could be any school appropriate product, maybe pencil, paper, notebook, who knows. The specialized product class must inherit from product. So that will be a subclass of the superclass product. It has to contain at least one additional property. Now, that's going to be up to you to determine based on the kind of product you're building. So I think before we start building any products, maybe we should have a little discussion about what we're building. We can have two constructors for that, a no arg and a five or more arg. So why would it be five or more? Well, the answer for that is four are already in the superclass, and you're told to add one more. So that's why it's five or more. So maybe you think of two extra ones to add to the subclass, so you might be six, right? Just depends. Right? So we're going to have to kind of like imagine this and build something clever. Once again, that will also have an overridden two string that includes all the base data plus the new data that we're adding to the subclass. Right. Then we also are going to need to have some way to run the program. So we're going to need a driver class with a main method. So now the thought here is the abstract class and the specialized class could either be separate files or you can add them to the master program as we've been doing. Whichever way you choose to proceed, that's up to you. And there's no right or wrong on that. A professional programmer would probably lean towards making them separate files. When you're coding on this level, it's going to be fairly simplistic. It's kind of okay to bundle everything together. And I think that's the approach I'm going to use today, because that way I don't have to flip screens. It'll all be in one file. Right. So in that main method, it says populate a list with some specialized products. That's kind of what we just did in the try it out for ending up the Module 7 lecture. And then print a menu and allow the user to view product data, and then exit when the user chooses to. Sounds like a loop, right? That's pretty common now. And then if you want, there's extra credit if you add input validation to it. Now, what I will suggest to you here is that I'm not going to write that piece for you. If you want the extra credit, you got to write that. But what the input validation would be is, like, for example, if you're asking them to select from a list of like 10 items or products, that if they type number 11, which doesn't exist, that you give them some sort of you validate that it's correct, or you check, if they typed in a string instead of a number, that kind of thing. So that's open to interpretation, right? So if you want those extra 2 points, they're earnable, but you have to come up with the logic for that. I won't show you. Let's look at a sample program run, because this is really helpful in terms of seeing what you're kind of expected to output. And maybe this example is a salsa menu. I'm not sure how that applies to a school appropriate product, but, hot sauces are very nice, so I'm a big fan myself. But we'll put up a salsa menu, and then, so it looks like 0 will be the exit code. That's up at the top. And then we'll have scorpion sting, mama salsa, whatever. And then you choose your product, you're prompted. After you choose the product, it displays all the information up on the screen. So, um, so if you chose option 3, it would show the name. It looks like it shows how hot it is. So seems like a property to me. The price, a heat level, hot, description, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you're done, it'll say press any key to continue. We haven't really kind of dealt with that issue yet, have we? Right. So we're going to learn how to deal with that piece. And it's actually pretty simple. Now, Alex, you were the one that wrote the pre-existing code, and you asked if that was okay to do it. What code did you use to do that? Do you want to unmute and just tell everybody?
Sure, yeah. I was the let me see. I gotta find it. Um it was like read key or something like that. Where is this? Hang on.
Yeah, and just yeah, and Alex, that's actually all you need to say. By the way, you don't have to hunt it down and show us an example. But basically, like when I'm running the sample code off of Visual Studio and it runs the console and then it stops and it says press any key to continue. That's basically what we're talking about here, and that's done with the read key, right? You can press any key on the keyboard, doesn't matter what it is, as long as you press something and it's done, right? So that's what we're going to create. So basically, every time you bring up an object on the screen and you look at it, what it is, then we would hit a key, and then it would bring us back to the menu. Right. So it's not going to put it up on screen and then go back to the menu. I mean, we'd never see the item. Right. So that's one of the challenges of console programming. They also do show an example of an invalid product entry. And so if you can imagine, I think this code should be pretty simple. That's why I don't want to share it with you guys. You guys should be able to figure it out at this point. We've kind of done this already, right? Sort of, right? So you could write the code to check that. Think about the logic it would take. So they put up selection from 0 to 4, and somebody typed in 8. Okay. I think that the logic of that is kind of implied, you know. They show another example of the person typing a letter, also an invalid entry. And then ultimately, they show an example of exiting the program. And then as you hit the exit option, it puts a message on the screen to show that you're closing the application. So this is the lay of the land, and this is what we're trying to create. All right, let's jump into Visual Studio and start building. I do have this example that I was working on in class. I'm going to save my changes, but I am going to go up to the File menu and choose Close Solution. We want that to just go away. Now, when you choose that option of Close Solution, it doesn't only close the current tab you're in. So if you have like a multi-file version of this, it closes all the files, all the project pointers, and everything, and gets rid of all of it. Right, just goes away. Right? And that's really what we want. So we do want a new project. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. I did also indicate as we started the video here that I was going to use the approach where I'm going to put the classes in the same code file because I think it's just smoother, for example. So here comes next menu selection here. We should probably call this something that makes sense, like Module 7 Lab, right? If you want to call it something more meaningful, like school products or something like that, that's fine. Whatever works for you. The name to me is pretty irrelevant at this point. Now, if you were building something for real, you want to name it something that matches what you're building. For me, this just is an easier way to ignore. I do have the box checked, right? So we are going to have the main method and the namespace and all that stuff. That is what we want. So we're going to click create. And we're going to let Visual Studio do its magic and build out our stuff. All right, back to the instructions to start figuring out what we're building here. And I think what makes a whole lot of sense is to start building the superclass, right? That seemed like a pretty easy task. So let's just go back here and read the description. And it says an abstract class called product that contains the following. All right, so let's just get the header built for that. That's a good place to start. We want to be not inside the internal class here, right? That's the part that runs the program. We want to be on the same level as that class file, and we want it to be accessible from the rest of the program. So we're gonna set it to public, and we also want this to be abstract, right? That's what we were told to do. So let's put in that keyword abstract. What else do I need to include here? What should this be called? Is it product or products? Well, let's go back and look. Called product singular. Okay. What else do I need to put in here? I think this might be enough, right? And why doesn't it like it?
I need to call it as class.
Ah, I never use the keyword class. Okay. Now, does it like it? They mess up the order. Okay, so this is okay. So you guys like sometimes I make mistakes and forget, but other times I kind of like lead us down a path intentionally, go, see why this is wrong? And abstract really should go there because it's an abstract class. So part of it is like the readability. Public is the access modifier, public, private, whatever. Abstract tells us what kind of a class, and just as you read it, say what kind of class is product. It's an abstract class called product. So I think that's important to kind of note that. Now, what's special about an abstract class? We can't directly instantiate it. So we can't just create an object from it. Its whole point is that it will be the superclass to all the specialized products that we build. All right. We do need some data fields. And so watch my really primitive approach to this. I don't want to bounce back and forth between these screens. So I'm just going to copy this text and I'm going to just create a little bit of a comment area here. I'm using the CSS style to do it. I'm just going to paste that stuff in. So it's just sitting there so I can look at it. When I'm all done, I can delete it. Right. This is just a helpful programming tip. You do not have to operate this way. I got into this habit like before I was like multi-screening, like I figured out, boy, when you figure out you can multi-screen, man, it just changes the way you work. And if you guys aren't multi-screening coders, right, and I'm saying this very sincerely to you, you need to start, right? There is not a coder out there that's not multi-screening when they work. Bigger the better. And heck, if two screens can sometimes not be enough. 3 screens is even better, right? Then you don't have to do stuff like this. You can just look at the instructions on screen number 2 or screen number 3 or however you arrange them. And if you guys are curious, I do have one over here on this side. I also have one up there, one up there, one up there, a laptop down here, and then another laptop here, and a few more machines that I can feed into the various monitors. And I have this crazy routing system, by the way, that I use to kind of pull it all up. And that way I can kind of like run 4, 5, 6 computer systems at the same time, switch feeds. It's kind of slick, right? All right, a little overkill, but TMI, I guess. All right, let's start building this stuff. So we're going to build 4 properties here. Now, because these are abstract classes, or this is an abstract class, do the data fields or properties, should those be public or private? Let's start with that discussion. Well, here's the reality, right? It depends. is the correct answer, because I could just make them public and make them getters and setters, and that's what I'm going to do here because I just think it's quicker and easier. The other approach is I can make them private data fields and then create get and set methods that have access to change them, right? If I was writing a Java program, I would do the latter. I would make them private and write getters and setters. In C#, I tend to like the approach of public with get and set. It just goes faster, right? At least for this level of coding. All right, so let's just do that really quick. So let's do public string, and okay, so it's just reading it. I think it's looking at my comments. You guys noticing that? All right. I'm having a hard time not just like hitting the tab key and just taking the whole thing. I am going to remove the abstract. Why? Could I make it abstract? I could. Alex, you gonna?
So when I did this assignment, if I didn't include the abstract, it wouldn't run. So
Okay.
it had something to do with it not being compatible with the superclass, I think, is what it said, if I'm recalling it correctly.
All right. So what you're telling me, Alex, at least by based on your experience, because you've walked these steps before, that abstract is probably the right choice. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what? Rather than waste time kind of getting there later, let's just do it now. So we have the name and the description, but we also have the size, the price, and I'm going to try to keep them in the order that they're in there. And you see, it's just like speculating. I think it's amazing that it speculates like this. So, um, okay, so it is saying size and price and description. I'm not really even sure what my products are going to be yet. So this maybe it'll be like WCTC hoodies. Maybe it'll be my product, or T-shirts or hats or something. That sounds like a reasonable kind of thing, because size would then apply. I am going to just press the tab key here to kind of let it auto generate this, but I think, should size be an integer or a string? Depends on what you're selling. It's kind of an interesting thought, right? Um, if it was shoes, I'd want a number. If it was, you know, hoodies, I'd probably want a string. It doesn't really specify. Well, actually, it does. It says string. So I mean, do you guys notice that in the description it said string? So, I mean, the answer is like sitting right there in front of you. So, size. Now, if I did decide to use numbers for a size, would that disallow numbers? No, no, this is kind of an interesting thought. Haven't talked about that much either. But for example, like a lot of times, like if you read an app that captures a phone number, would you write that as an integer? Generally most inexperienced programmers will, right? Same with zip codes. Experienced programmers usually go, wait a second, people might drop in special characters, they might put in parentheses, they might add spaces. So string is actually a better answer for like phone numbers, sizes, and things like that. It's kind of an interesting thought. Often ID numbers too fall into that category. All right. We also have one there for price. That one seems to be a double. So we'll do public abstract double, and that one should be price. That's going to be a monetary thing. And you know what? We're going to get set. I think we're all good here. So we're just letting Visual Studio do its thing. All right. We need a couple of constructors. All right. So this part's done. And if it helps you, that you finished it, to get rid of it, just do that. Crossed off the list. You could leave it too. It doesn't matter. But now we need two constructors. Let's focus on the constructors. Constructors are going to be named the same as the class. Do we need any special sort of modifiers on this? Or can I just say product? And they wanted a no-ard constructor, right? And I'm not sure what we're going to put in here. What would we put in here? I'm also noticing here is my curly bracket in the right spot. Yeah, I'm going to indent that just to make myself feel comfortable. Or maybe I should outdent the upper one, right? I just don't like how it's sitting because of how I created it. Makes me feel uncomfortable, bad indentation. Right. So here's my no art constructor. I really don't know what to put in here right now. Well, or I could think about this. Maybe I can think about this. Could a no art constructor still set all of these values? Could name be set to blank or no, maybe, right? Or size or price or just I could preset those, right? Okay, so let's do it. All right, so let's do name. And how about what Visual Studio is suggesting? String empty or null? We haven't done this before. Or, I mean, if if I'm using this, so apparently this is some sort of a method or property that you can just trigger. I mean, could I do this? Isn't that the same thing as an empty string? Or could I do this? Now, it doesn't like that as much, does it? Let's experiment a little bit before we come up with an answer, you know? And I think that's a really wise approach. So with size, this is also a string. What if I tried this for size? Right. Well, I'm tossing stuff in here just for right now. If I um, declare price, okay, that one makes sense. Zero makes sense, right? If I don't have a price, it's free. That's a number. It's got to be a number in there. And then description. What do you? Should we try that string? Is it string empty thing? But let's have a discussion about it. If I use a no art constructor to build this, this is an abstract class. It's never really going to build this stuff, is it? But if we did call it without throwing this in, we got to have something drop in. Which of these approaches is the best? Well, I'm going to say it depends once again. Really, so there's techniques you can follow. They essentially all kind of do the same thing. The string ones, it doesn't really kind of, like this one too much. Doesn't mean it's not going to work, right? Could I also on name, could I do this? Would that get rid of the green underline? Yeah, okay. So it kind of shows you the interrelationship between null and that question mark. Now, maybe, and I'm just kind of putting it in there right now, maybe what would be better here is to say unknown or uh, description needed or something like that, or not declared or something, something that would be meaningful to you. And you know what? The size, um, we can leave that blank. Description, yeah, we can leave that empty. But the empty string is the same as the empty string. Doesn't really matter. Right? I hope you guys are feeling that. So, and I'm showing this to you so that you have kind of that conception that it's okay to do it that way. But now they're asking for a for-arg constructor. So we're going to just build the same method again. We're going to call it product. And then here, and just bounced off the screen here, we're going to take that and we're going to just let it kind of hopefully auto type it for us. But we're going to have a string name, string size, notice the lowercase versus the uppercase, a double for price, and a string for description. Right. Good suggestion here from Visual Studio. Yes, take it. Take it, take it, take it. Right. So there's our for arg constructor. we have a default that populates the stuff. I'm just thinking for maybe for size, maybe one possibility would be, how about this for a possibility here? How about not applicable? Right? Because maybe you would buy, okay, so if we're thinking of like school clothing items, which is what I'm kind of thinking of, and I bought like a hat. A lot of hats these days are one size fits all. Size it is not applicable. So that might be a good one. Lowercase, uppercase, whatever. You guys all good? All right, so we've crossed another thing off the list. And I'm also showing you here kind of like a methodology for proceeding with writing code. That if you feel overburdened by the description of what you're about to build, man, just take it one little step at a time. Do the easiest stuff first, do the stuff you understand, and then worry about the hard stuff. And then you might find, and just this is based on experience, of course, that after you've done all the easy stuff, that hard thing doesn't look quite so hard. And it really, really helps procedurally. All right. So we're, if you want to, kind of look back here, it's kind of like we've completed all this so far. We don't, hey, look, we don't have that much more to go. That's kind of, how to encourage yourself. We also have this thought, an overridden toString that prints all four properties. Piece of cake. We've done that a dozen times, right? All right. So we got to remember here when we do the toString thing that we are going to do it public. We have to tell it it's an override because we're overriding the master one, right? toString, right? We just go with what it's giving us. And then, of course, it does this automatically, but that's not what we're returning. We will stick to the form of string interpolation that seems to be kind of like the modern go-to convention here. And I usually do this first and then drop my stuff in there. And what are we returning here? Okay, well, how about all the fields, right? That's what it told us to do. And then how are we returning them? Well, okay, let's go back to the output screen and see what we're supposed to put in. So if we pull back a product information, it looks like we're putting in the name, the size, and the price, along with a description, right? Is those things? Name, size, price, and description. Now, here they're throwing in an extra thing, right? That might come from the subclass. There's that extra data property. Here they're looking at hot sauce and its heat level. And I guess here, medium is actually the size. So you might get the 1 ounce bottle, the 2 ounce bottle, or the 4 ounce bottle, for example, right? So I'm seeing this as name, size, price from the subclass from the description field. So this and this are coming from here, right? So let's kind of mimic that a little bit. Let's see if we can kind of build that. So first I'm going to pull back the name, right? And that's going to be the capital N name. And then they put the name and the size and the price in one line. So we can just say name, and we do comma. I'm going to do a comma. And then I'm going to say, oh, and wait, okay. Do I have to say what the name of the product is? Like name, colon, name of the product? Or do I say product, colon? No, I didn't do that, right? It just listed the product. And then it put the size in parentheses. So if you really want to like mimic it, you can do that. I'm going to just do a comma, by the way, and just say size. And then do I want, I got to think about like how you want your output to look here. How did they do? Yeah, they just use the comma. So I'm going to stick with the comma approach. And then we'll have, how does that go? If we want to format something as currency, can I just do the name of the field, which is, what was it, price, right? And then I do this for currency, right? Right. So hopefully you guys remember this, right? So it's like a semester's worth of stuff crammed into one lab. All right. I have an extra space there, whatever. Um, I don't know. I mean, if I was really formatting it and I wanted to look really, really fancy, I might go in there and make it like line up really nice or use different punctuation. Let's get it on screen first, and then we can clean it up, right? That's also a good approach. So don't worry about what the final output looks like. Get it to work first, then you can tweak the formal stuff, right? That's a pretty sage piece of advice. But it also is asking us to return the description. And I've got one return statement here, but looks like the description should be on a separate line. So what do I do? Well, it's called /n, right? Is one way to do it. So that would be my new line. And then I could start the word description, a space, and then I can string interpolate again and do description and just drop it in. And then probably a period at the end, unless the description carries a period in it. So let's just not do that. Okay. So we got this part. Now we have the superclass created. Let's remove this comment here because we did the work. So we have our 4 data fields. We have our no arg constructor. We have our 4 arg constructor. We have the overrided toString method, and it's an abstract class. Have we completed all those tasks? Okay, so part 1 of 4 complete. Now part's done. Okay, great. Now we need to build classes for our specialized products. Now, this is where we have to kind of conceptualize. Now, I have it in my head that I'm building like school clothing, right? So I might have various different types of products that are unique from each other. So for example, I might sell t-shirts, I might sell hats, might sell hoodies. I don't know what other clothing items you want to buy from, with the WCTC logo on it. I'm sure we could think of a few, but let's just start with some of those. All right. So as we build a class for the product, so it can be anything that we want. Okay. Must inherit from product, not a problem. At least one additional property. I'm sure I can figure that out. The constructors again with an additional property and another overridden toString method. So I'm hoping that you guys see that this really isn't that hard either. Right? This is actually pretty easy. Once again, let's copy some of this stuff over. I think I'll remember the school appropriate. So I'm just going to copy these. And why am I doing that? I just don't want to flip back and forth again. I want to do this in a way where I'm feeling comfortable as I build, don't have to flip back and forth, and more importantly, not forget what I'm doing. I'm using the what I call the CSS style comment marks here, just pasting that stuff in, and I'm just going to let it sit like in between my class definitions. All right, so let's build. What do we start with? Hoodies. Let's start with hoodies. Okay, so we're going to do public class, and be careful about how I name this here, because I'm going to build a class that will be a blueprint for a hoodie, singular, right? So I'm going to call it hoodie. I'm not sure is this the right spelling for hoodie? I think so. Yeah, I think we can all agree that's how you spell hoodie. Back in my day, we used to call these sweatshirts with a hood on them, right? We didn't. I wonder when that term really kind of got invented. All right. Now, we want to add a additional property, and real frankly, I don't know what that property is, but I did forget to do something. What did I forget to do? Right. If you're great, go ahead, Alex, since you're ready to
Need
jump on
to inherit hoodie into product.
Correct. right? So if I'm going to use um, hoodie as a subclass, what class am I drawing from? I'm drawing from my other product class, right? So that inheritance has to be there. Okay. Now let's go ahead and man, I'm just not really sure. Okay, well, okay, so now you got to think about your product. Now I can think of two types of hoodies. And here's the two types of hoodies I normally think of with a zipper and without a zipper. So maybe my extra property could be has zipper and it's a Boolean. How about that? That seems pretty reasonable. Okay, so let's create that. Let's create a public. We're just making it public so it's easy to access. That's a Boolean, and we'll say has zipper. Now, I'm a big fan of the zippered hoodies myself, if you care. And let's get and set. Just makes it a little bit easier. We only need one extra property. There it is. Okay. Now we need to have, so it must inherit from product, crossed off the list. Must contain at least one additional property, crossed off the list. Right? And it makes you feel good when you cross stuff off the list. Next, two constructors, a no arg and a 5 arg. Piece of cake after what we've been through. No problemo. So we're going to say public hoodie. There's the no arg constructor. And how about that? Should the default be, and do we want to set this here? This is a question. Should the default be has zipper false or has zipper true? To be real frank, I think false probably makes more sense, actually, right? The traditional hoodie has no zipper. Yeah, and we could preset that. Sure, let's do that. But then we need the 5 arg constructor, and once again calling it hoodie. And here we'll start feeding in the values. Now, what order do we feed these in? Well, I don't know. It depends, right? Um, I'm going to say if we're going to like pull values in and feed them to the super class, remember we have to add some stuff at the end, that base thing, right? And what's getting pushed up. But I'm still looking up here at what is it? Name, size, price, and description. So we're going to do, let's start with those in order. So we'll go string, name, string, what would come next? Size, and let's go lowercase on these. Double for price. You see how I'm like struggling to remember what they even are. Description. So we have string description. I'll go with the abbreviated, and then we also have the Boolean. Has zipper. But remember that we want to pull this from the constructor and send it to the superclass. So we're going to do the base thing and then what follows. What should go here? Well, all of them except for the Boolean, right? Correct. All of them except for the Boolean. And then we can just do this. We can go name, size, price, description. You see how it auto filled it, and I'm just going with it. Now it is automatically auto suggesting has zipper. Heck, I'm just going to do it because I don't want to type it. What about the rest of them? Do I need to put anything else in? Why did it not include name, size, price, and description in the auto type? The answer is because it doesn't need to, right? That's going up to the superclass. The superclass is handling that, right? So because of this code here at the end, that's being transported up here to this constructor, basically, to populate the fields. That's what's going on. So the only one we set locally is this one. All the rest belong to the parent class, superclass, where we are inheriting from. You guys all good so far? And just in case you guys know, I'm not seeing the chat window right now on my screen. I should probably have it handy just in case somebody types in a question. All right. So we got another line crossed off. So we got the no arg and the 5 arg constructor built. Once again, we need to override the string method. So let's just do that. That's another really easy activity. So public override toString string. I'm just letting it auto type and I'm completing these. And now we need to have some sort of a return statement here. And we can do this so many different ways. What is it supposed to return? I guess we should probably read that. It says toString that includes the base data plus the new data for this class. Now, if you guys remember how to do that, we did an example of this, really easy to forget though. So we want to include the base information. Now think about this. When I type this base dot toString, what's happening here is it's reaching up to the toString method from the superclass. This one, it'll do that, and then anything else I want it to. And what I'm missing here is the whole zipper thing. So I'm going to include here, I'm going to concatenate, and this is how we've been doing it. We'll put in a blank line, so I'll do a /n. Right. And you could move your text down to the next line. That's up to you how you really want to do it. But I'm just going to do mine right here. And if you okay, so maybe this is why we were doing it. So remember before when we were doing the cow, and we were checking to see if it has spots or not, and we wrote a ternary if statement. So I'm going to do that here. So I'm going to put in a set of parentheses, and I'll put in my semicolon right away. But inside here, I'm going to check has zipper. This is a true or false. So if it has a zipper, I'm going to say with zipper. Oh boy. Right? Else, that's what the question mark, or actually, I'm sorry, here I'm screwing up. Right. This should be a question mark. That should be a colon. There we go. And then if it doesn't have zipper, we will say about nothing. What do you think? And then, in that case, maybe I don't add the new line at all. I only add the new line if it has a zipper. If it has no zipper, I mean, if they're shopping for a hoodie, right? Would you be searching for zipperless? I mean, you could argue that, I suppose, but I'm going to use this approach. I think this is kind of a clever way to do it. Right. So I'll only add a new line that says with zipper if there's a zipper. Otherwise, it's going to be blank. You can do whatever you want. I mean, your product, you should have a different product, maybe if you're like imagining this. All right. So that's my hoodie stuff. Now, I've got a red underline on hoodie. So this is what you were getting, Alex, with your code, right? And and all these error messages are the same. And let's read what it says. It says, hoodie does not implement inherited abstract member of product description.get or set, right? So get set, it doesn't have all those things. So why is it doing that? Okay. before I answer, right, let's kind of learn. It's kind of like moving into this world of like self-driving cars. Eventually, you're going to have to learn how to let go of the wheel and let the let the AI in the car or whatever software they have drive the car. And so Visual Studio kind of has those kind of tools. And I'm just going to point to this show potential fixes thing. I'm going to click it and let's see what it's suggesting. Oh my God, that seems like a nightmare, right? Now, but what it's telling me is that because basically we're feeding stuff in from here, they want us really to basically override the values in the superclass. Why are they asking us to override it? It's a really interesting question, right? Um, and part of it is because of how we built the superclass, but also because we're using the abstract. And notice that we're doing gets and sets, and it's throwing exceptions, which are basically error handlers. All right. I'm actually going to control Z that. I'm not sure that I want to do this, right? So that was the suggestion, but I didn't do that. So, Alex, can I ask, how did you overcome that problem? What was your fix?
I basically just I did what you just did. I did the show potential fixes. I saw all the exception handling in there. I pretty much just tried it without the exception handling. I just did the so basically what you have with the public abstract string name get set, just remove abstract and replace it with override
Okay.
for all
And
four of those
okay, so
variables.
that is one approach. And you know what, Alex, that's normally the way I would do it. Um, but what I'm just going to put it out there. What if I do this? Right. Okay. Well, if I do it for one, and so we can control Z our way out of this. So don't like freak out. Maybe you guys should watch before you copy, by the way. Right. Let's just get rid of the abstract. Does hoodie still underline red? Interesting. Right. So when we're creating it, it wanted the abstract there. But now that it's created, it kind of doesn't matter. Right. Not that it not that you couldn't do it the other way. So if you want to declare them as abstract, that's fine. Right. Um, but I would, for for the level that we're at right now, this is the approach I would use. That's my recommendation. But Alex, if you did it the other way, where you did the override, totally acceptable. It kind of just really kind of depends on what your goals with the information and the data is. So neither approach is right or wrong. If the code works, the code works. But I think that for at least the level we're working on, that makes sense to me. All right, so we accomplished all of those tasks, and now let's take a look at how far we've gotten. So hey, look at all that code we've written. Right? Doesn't that make you feel better? Yeah, it should. All right. So now, I mean, we're kind of getting to the point where now we can make objects, make the lists, and get this going. So we're going to create a driver class with a main method. Okay, that's already in place, right? What they mean by that is, okay, so we've created some classes here. They're internal. That's fine. It could be external files too. But this is our driver class, which is called program, by the way. And then our main method will run the whole thing. And you know what? I'm not going to necessarily do a console write line here, but I could. Um, and the example that they used here was, all right. I mean, they're calling their salsa menu. Could I just hard code that into the main method? Sure. Or I could write a function that does that. In fact, I could write a function that writes the menu, but I need a few more products. I need more products than just a hoodie, right? So why don't we create really quickly a couple? I don't want to do 4 products here, but ideally that's what you would do is 4 products. So I'm going to create a couple more specialized product classes, and I'm thinking a hat and a t-shirt. Let's do that. So those will fit the scenarios. So I'm only going to do 3 products. So let's do that. So we didn't do enough of that, I guess. So we have hoodie as our model. And I'm just going to suggest to you here, yes, you could copy all a hoodie, right? This might not be the most elegant way to do it, but um, this is the way I'm doing it, right? Because I want to kind of go fast. So I'm going to create a t-shirt. I'm just going to call it a t-shirt like this. And so if I'm calling the class t-shirt, my constructors must be called t-shirt. So you just do that. Will t-shirts have zippers? No. Okay. What might t-shirts have? Okay, suggestion, long sleeve, short sleeve. Sound good? Right? Long sleeve t-shirt. Okay. So we could call it, instead of has zipper, we could call it is long sleeve. True or false? Pretty simple. And so if we're calling that is long sleeve, then this should be called that too. Oops. I'm just copy pasting here, but I'm just showing you my brain waves and thinking pattern and solution approach. We have to change the names of some of these things here. So notice the upper lowercase. So if this one's lowercase, then this one's lowercase, like so. All the rest of the stuff still holds. So here we are so far. T-shirt is long sleeve, no art constructor, 5 art constructor, and then we can change the toString class really quickly too. And we'll just say, I'm just going to keep it simple and say long sleeves. I could get a little fancier with this, but time is precious here. So has zipper also is incorrect. So we want to check this value like so. So therefore, my next product, there it is in its entirety. All right. What was my other product that I was thinking about? A hat, right? Like winter stocking cap kind of thing, or it could be a baseball cap. So if you want 2 different cap kinds, so you can have a winter cap or a baseball cap, either one. All right. So once again, I'm just going to copy the entire product, paste it, and we're going to call it cap. And you know what? That should be a cap. Cap. Oh gosh, what's the extra data property on this one?
Has tassel?
Say that again.
Has tassel?
There you go.
Remember
Thank
that
you.
little ball on the top?
Yeah, yeah. And that would be a TASSLE. Yeah, sounds good. That was a good call there, John. So I'm just gonna, since I'm working with has tassel right now, I'm replacing all of those first, and then I'm going to make this a lowercase has tassel. Be really methodical here. You could use find and replace too, but these files are so short, it makes no sense to do that at this point. Okay, so cap, has tassel, uppercase, 2 lowercase ones, and then with tassel. Oh, except here we're checking has tassel, not is long sleeve. So if I wanted to add another product type, I can't really think of any more products right now. This is enough, right? We have t-shirt, a cap, and hoodies. with a couple of options. Okay, so I think we're good. You know, my menu will be a little bit shorter than the one in the example. And I mean, does it actually say create? It doesn't tell you how many products to create, actually, does it? You know, the implication is that you're creating 4 products, but who knows, right? All right. So now we have some other stuff to do. One thing that we have to do is we got to be able to put the menu up on the screen and call that from the main driver class. So I could write a function to do that. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to scroll way up to the top. Instead of starting the program with the console write line, by the way, I'm just going to delete that. And here's what I would do. I would create a function called display menu. And notice I'm putting in the function call first, even though I don't have it. And then I'm going to hover, show potential fixes, and generate the method called display menu. Yes, that's inside the program class. They're calling it private. Does it matter? Think about this. It's only accessible to this program. It's okay. I wouldn't run this externally, really. If you're not sure, you can set it to public or just remove the private designation. If it doesn't work, alter it. But it is correct to do to private. This isn't something I would run it like call in and try to run externally. Hey, display the menu from this program. Why? If it doesn't have the rest of the program, it makes no sense, right? All right, so let's display the menu. And so we're going to just do some console write lines here for the menu, right? That's let's call it low hanging fruit. Once again, really easy to kind of put on the screen. And okay, so we're going to do a bunch of console write lines here, right? Well, okay, let's just do the top part first. So what should my menu be? Official WCTC clothing. Or, maybe official is a little heavy. WCTC clothing. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 characters. And rather than do a couple of lines here, I'm going to do a /n and then do, you have little dot or dashes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that'll have WCTC closing and the dashes all with one console write line. Then we want to display, what do we need to do here? We need to display, okay, so now we got to think about this. We need to display the list of all the products, which means we need to have a list of all the products. Now, if I'm going to, so for example, when we did, and this is why I have my Visual Studio Code open here on the other screen, right? We did this like interface demo. You guys remember this, right? And we created, for example, a list of objects, right? And what would we create a list of? That's kind of an interesting thought, isn't it? Would it be products or do we need to create a list? Here's a whole separate thing. But one way or the other, if we're going to add stuff to the menu, it's not like we're going to hard code it. We want it to feed in dynamically, because what if later on I decide to create more products? You see what I'm talking about? Or who's to say that we're only selling one hoodie, one cap, or one t-shirt? In fact, we know better. We're going to create probably long sleeve shirts, short sleeve shirts, zippered hoodies, non-zippered hoodies, and one size fits all caps. Right? Now, if you really wanted to get persnickety about this, you could also create men's versions, women's versions, children's versions, etc. Right? You could like go way down the rabbit hole. But my question becomes, where do we build that so we can add it to the menu. All right, so kind of a interesting thought here. You could do it a bunch of different ways once again. So this is really kind of all in the ideation. My thinking is we need to create the products first, right? In other words, we need to instantiate those products. So, okay, so we might display the menu, but maybe we need to create the products. So what if I write a function called, now this is maybe a little bit beyond the scope of, what the description is, but this is how I would do it, right? So, so I'm kind of putting it that way. So we're going to create the products and we're calling it as a function. So I'm going to write a separate function. Once again, we're just going to use the automatic tool to build it. And then what does that look like? What happens if I create the products? Well, we're going to instantiate them. Okay, so let's just create all the products I just talked about. So let's create a hoodie and we'll call it zippered hoodie. And if you really want to get persnickety about this, you could large zippered hoodie, or etc. Right? And maybe I shouldn't even say zippered. Maybe I'm just getting way too ahead of myself here. Maybe I should just say hoodie one. Let's just make it simple, right? And this is probably what you guys would do. And when I create that hoodie, okay, so it's so we can use millarg, right? And then set the values later. I really kind of don't want to do it that way, right? We want to kind of get this example rolling here. So let's just think about a few things we're going to create here. So let's create hoodie one. Let's create hoodie two. We'll feed in all of the data fields after, right? I just want to get all the products in here. Then let's create t-shirt and we'll call it t-shirt one, t-shirt failing on all accounts here in my typing. And then what was the other object? Cap. Let's call it cap. Let's say new cap. But you see, once again, like I'm just thinking about the objects I'm creating first and kind of making a grand list of them. And then I'm going to go back and populate the details. Now, I could test the no arg and the with arg constructors, correct? But because we don't have a lot of time, I'm just going to kind of do this as fast as I can. So with hoodie, if I'm feeding stuff in, I could say deluxe. Let's call this one the deluxe hoodie. So that's going to need a name. Let's see, like the auto type here is wonderful. The size. And normally I would create a separate entry for everything, right? So I'll just say large. It's a pretty common size. The price, I don't know, $29.99. Sounds about right. And then this deluxe hoodie is so cool. Whatever your description is, I'm just making it brief just for the sake of time. But normally you would say school colors, material, drawstring, whatever, Velcro, whatever features it has, you want to like talk about it. And then finally has zipper. The deluxe one has a zipper, so it'll be true. The next one I'll call the standard WCTC hoodie. maybe that one's a medium. It's not deluxe, right? Oh, what did I do wrong with the $29.99? It's a number, duh. Okay. So it's a price. How about $19.99 for this one? And then has zipper will be false. No zipper on the standard model. Now I'm getting a little bit of oh, I forgot what my description. And I'm just going to say this is this standard hoodie is very nice. I'm really struggling for good descriptors here, but hey, whatever. All right, t-shirt. Okay, following basically the same pattern, so we'll just call it the short sleeve thing is handled later, but we just call it we just stick with deluxe and standard again. Let's just do that, right? It's better than coming up.
Could do long sleeve and short sleeve.
Right, but the Boolean's going to handle whether or not it's long or short sleeve. Right? Yeah. So, I mean, if I really gave this more thought, I could probably be a lot more clever with it. But let's just say it's a size. How about XX, extra large, right? 2XL. How much is a t-shirt? I don't know, $15.99. Our regular t-shirts. And then the Boolean on this one is it long sleeve? That will be false, right? All right, I'm getting really lazy here, so now I'm doing the copy paste to speed up the process even more. And we'll just call it standard WCTC shirt. Or is the, okay, so now I'm changing my mind. This is deluxe, right? And the deluxe one has the true. So deluxe is long sleeve, the standard is short sleeve. And the standard is $2 cheaper. And then finally, we have the cap. Yeah, I'm pasting again. And actually, I'm going to need two caps too, aren't I? Our winter WCTC winter cap. Right, one size fits all. How much are we selling that for? How about $9.99? Keep your head warm. And then one will have a tassel, and then copy the whole cap thing, and then cap 2 will have, so we'll do cap 1, cap 2. We'll just follow that pattern. We charge an extra $1 for the tassel. Seems kind of like a rip off, hey, but whatever. And then okay, it should be the other way around again, right? So this one should be the tassel one. This one, not tassel version. So that will become false. Okay, there we go. There's our pattern. So now we've created the product. So now I'm calling create products. It makes the products, right? Could I also when I do the create products, could I drop them into a list that I could then drop into the menu? Sure, why not, right? Sounds like a good plan. And so let's do list of type Y. What's the type that we're putting in here? Could we do products? Well, product. And oh shoot, and I want it to auto type here. Thank you. Studio. And we're just going to take this as is. So we created the list of type products, right? And then we will drop into it all of the now, does this make sense to do it this way? Are they all products? Well, you know what? We're going to find out. So now we're going to add to the list, right? Alex, you like my approach, obviously, right? Let's see what happens, right? All right. So we're going to take our products and we're going to add. What are we going to add? We're going to add all the products. So you can just start picking them here from the list. So we can do, it doesn't matter what order we do it in. Maybe t-shirt 1 should go first, right? T-shirt 2, maybe hoodie 1, hoodie 2, do cap 1, cap 2. So there's all the products added to the list. Do I need to sort them? No, I don't think so. Then we want to do an output, right? So we could do that with a, well, actually, is this where we want to do the output or do we want to do it with display menu? And second question, would display menu be able to access this list? Yes, it would, because it's part of the program that's so it's private. Yes, it would work. So let's go back to display menu now. We can put our loop here. So I can just say for each, and then let's think about how we would name this here. Okay, so all this is going to be basically a string. And we're going to think about products as a plural thing, but I'm going to call it, we're going to list one at a time. So I'm going to say for string product in products, right? Not create products, products. I think it's fascinating how it's just like trying to like control my typing. Thank you very much. But what's the error here? The product does not exist in the current context. Well, what if I make this public? Then is it okay? Well, let's put in the curly brackets and see if we can figure it out. Why is it not existing there? Once again, don't rush to answer the question, right? There's a reason why it's not. Are we doing this the right way? Here's kind of a secondary concern. Yeah, Alex, you're shaking your head. Okay, you seem pretty confident. So go ahead and get. I want to hear your input.
In that create products function that you made, I think you need to return the value of that list that you made, and then so just at the end, you just do return product semicolon, which will, you put that in there, give you a slightly different error.
Okay. So we're returning the whole object. Well, yeah, now we're going to have a different error and right. We've marked this as void, right? But what does it need to be? What does it need to be returning?
A list of data type product.
Yeah. So this is kind of an interesting. Now I real frankly, folks, I'm making this a little more complex than it needs to be because I could kind of take all this code and put it into the main program body too, which is solve the problem. Right? But what we're doing here is we're learning a slightly more complex way to do it, which I think is more powerful. So I'm kind of rolling with it. So I'm going to take that fix, right? So let's see if I can trigger it. Okay, so it just did it for me. So now I have a return statement, and that's returning a list of type product. But does that create another error? Because I'm calling create products, and it's returning a list. But where's that list going? Okay. Did it fix my problem here? No. Why? Because now I need to transport the list in there. All right, so here's what I'm going to do to kind of solve this. Okay, because I am also looking at the clock going, oh my God, we got 2 minutes of class left, right? So I'm going to kind of wrestle with this. Because of the time efficiency, I'm going to kind of abandon all of this and I'm going to just grab all this and drop it in. And normally what I would do is I would build functions for everything. So I could just say, create the products, display the menu, and kind of keep going through that structure. But we are running out of time here. So I have to like kind of think of efficiency. So here's what I'm going to do for right now. Now, what I hope to do over the next day or so, by the way, is I will create for you a solution following through so you guys can see how to fix it. But I do want you to struggle with it a little bit because it, frankly, it builds coding character, and helps you do a little bit of problem solving to get there. So let's just take this approach for just a second. Let's take all of this. I'm leaving the methods there. There's no harm done in leaving them there. I'm just going to drop it into the main method. That's fine. Now, can I do this if I just drop that in up here? Would that work? Well, so it says I cannot convert product to string. Okay, now I got a separate problem. So why can't I convert product to string? What is my hang up with this now? This is kind of a separate kind of question, because really all that we're trying to do is we're trying to, all right, let me just type in like kind of what I think we should be doing, right? So for example, really what I kind of want to get to is a console write line of product. But it's not being able to iterate through it for some reason, right? Here we had it doesn't exist in context, but it didn't mind it. Now we're up here and it says can't convert product to string. So what should I really be feeding? It's telling me really kind of what I should be changing it to. What are we iterating through? Products. This is really kind of confusing syntax in a way. So we're passing in the product object. We're looking at each individual one that's in the list, right? Because the list is built of products. If this said string here, then I could say string here, but that's not what we're feeding in. We're feeding in the whole object. And then we're asking it to console write line product. Now, the question you need to ask yourself is, will that work? And if that worked there, would it work here? Right? And that's a logical assumption. So if I switch at the product, is that, well, no, it's still because it's not in the current context. All right. Okay, so we're leaving that one alone. But let's follow through now on the main program body. Would this run? Okay, let's try it, right? There's no harm done at any point in the program to try running it. Now, I do have an error, and where is that error? That's the one that we have right here. So one thing I can do with that, at least for right now, is let's just comment that out. And I'm going to use that CSS style for now. Right. Turns the error off, and I can try to run the code. So here we go. All right. All right. This is brute force. the beginning pops in there. It is showing WCTC shirt, extra large, $15, our description. And maybe it should say additional info, long sleeves, right? But it's doing it. But what's it doing? It's showing me everything that's in the object, right? So this does work to display each description if I want to see all the descriptions. That's not what I'm asking to do right now. Right? You see the logic here? So this also is actually irrelevant right now, but it shows me that the objects are built and I can pull the descriptions back pretty easily. Right? Now, really what I need to do is I need to generate the menu, and the menu is going to kind of look like, if you guys can just kind of ideate this a little bit, we'll have 0 for an exit option, right? And then what else are we going to write? So that's just text. So we would do this, right? And then put that inside. So let's just get that up on the screen. So we have 0 for exit. And then how are we going to feed just the title of the product? And all right, so to me it sounds like string interpolation, right? So let's do that. And I realize we're past time, so I apologize for that. And then let's also look at what that menu looks like. So I'm trying to like operate in hurry up mode here, like the Packers should have last night. I don't know how many of you guys watched the game or not. So 0 is exit. Well, that one's just going to be always exit, right? I don't have to put anything with it. So that can just be plain text. The next one, so I don't need the string interpolation here, correct? No, I do not. The following line I might. So let's just throw the $sign in just to have it. Empty double quotes. Let's get that in there like this. And then we will start by saying 1 colon space. And then what are we feeding it? Let's help me with the syntax. Well, I could, in principle, just dynamically allow this to run, or I could hard code it. So I could, like, I know what products, I could just type in what the product is. Okay. And some of you might do that, and you know what, I'll accept that as valid, but really what I would prefer to see is that you call the object and pull back its name. That would be the preference here. So how would I do that? If I wanted to put, let's say, t-shirt 1 on the screen, I could do this. I could see t-shirt 1 dot name, right? So that's one approach. I could also hard code the name by reading through my code. Probably not recommended. Could I also take the list called products and pull back what's in the first position? Well, you have to spell it right, but could I do this? Yes, you could do this. And from a programmatic standpoint, this is probably the one that makes the most sense. In fact, I could also, and I'm just going to have you think about this, I could write a loop that increments the number and increments the index value dynamically. If I had time, that's the way I would do it. But you know what? Let's just get the stuff on the screen, folks. Right, let's get some of this done. So I'm gonna, how many products do we have? 6. And you see how fast I'm kind of trying to do this. It's the final drive of the game. We got less than a minute to play. We have no timeouts left. Yada, yada, yada. Bad Packers examples. And then increment all of these by 1. This is fine too. So any of those approaches that I just kind of demonstrated are acceptable. If you're a loop, I would consider that probably the ultimate way to do it. Can I run this and see if it works? Yeah, we should. All right, let's do that. Here comes the run. Yay. Pretty close to done. We have to add one more thing to our menu though. What's the thing we have to add? Choose a product. So what I'm going to do is just take one of these plain console write lines, add it here. And I might even push it down the line and then say, choose a product, something like that. And then we're waiting for input. Now we are out of time, so we're almost 10 minutes over, and I really don't want to go much longer. I do have people waiting on me to join my regular life here, but we've got a really good head start. And like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to code the remainder of this solution. So I'm just going to pause the video when we're done, and then at some point I'm going to jump back on and finish it. And you guys can, if you're desperate to, solve it on your own, you can just watch my video. But at this point, I'm hoping that you see, like, for example, after we get the menu up here, the menu could go in a loop, right? Waiting for the right input. We've done that before. And then when they do that, so I'm just going to put a little note here. Put the menu in a loop, okay, until 0 is chosen. Then the next thing that we would need to do is what? Display correct product info based on user choice. Now, because you guys might struggle with that piece a little bit, and this really probably should be inside that same loop, right? Makes sense? Yeah, it should. And what we would put here, let's say the user chose 1. How do we handle it? What would be a good mechanism for handling it? Now, if you're thinking, okay, ultimately we're going to output something, but if you're thinking a switch case statement, probably a good choice. That would be one way to do it. You could also write an if statement. That would be a fine choice. And what are we checking for? Single integer, right? So we might want to actually create a variable. You might want to put that up top here. And then let's see, we want to create a variable, an integer, right? Or we want to do a string. Could be a string, actually. String might be a little more elegant. String, call it choice. And what do we want to, do we want to pre-populate the choice with something? How about, we just create it because we're waiting to read that in. So, right, so there will be a prompt, get user choice, optional, check if valid, display correct item, that's not choice, use switch case to do that. And then for each choice, what is the console write line going to look like? Well, do we have to do a write line, or can we just grab the toString method from each object? Yeah, that would be the correct choice. So we would, and I'm just going to do this, e.g. console, and you know what, before I put it as a comment, let's actually type out the code and let it help us. Console write line, we're going to reach into the object. Which object? Well, it depends. It depends on the choice. This could kind of be hard coded. So for example, if I chose t-shirt 1, could I just do toString? Would that work? Those parentheses correctly. Okay, so the one thing that we could do here, now we don't have a read line in here yet, so we'd have to capture the choice and store it. But I want to see if this would work. Would this give me the info that I need? Have we already proven that? Let's try it. Choose a product. So if, let's say hypothetically, they chose, the standard, or t-shirt one is deluxe. Okay. So if they chose the deluxe, this would appear on the screen. Would that be adequate? Yes. Right. So that's your output for each one of these. So we're not really far away from finishing this. The other really kind of interesting piece, and this is the one that I was talking about earlier with Alex, is once you get like to the point where you're doing like a console write line, by the way, and I'm doing this as fast as I can, folks, and I apologize. Then you can put up a message, something like this that says, press any key to continue, something like that. And then you just have this waiting there, right? Doesn't really capture any information, but when it comes up on screen, and here's our test for it, by the way, just to show you how it works. Right? It worked. So, right? Press any key to continue. It worked. Right. So that's the trick for that. Nothing really very fancy, by the way. Super, super simple code. All right, folks, I am going to pause the video here. I'm going to finish out the solution, and then I will post it for you, right? So if you guys are waiting for the solution, that's fine. So you guys are free to go. But what I'm going to say, I know the recording's still running. I'm tempted to finish it right now, just so I don't have to come back to it tomorrow. This is kind of my approach. So if you are welcome to stay in the session while I do it, but otherwise, if you have places to be or things to do, I understand. So feel free, carry on. I know my wife would appreciate it if I came upstairs on the workshop as soon as possible. Maybe your families would appreciate the same thing. But for right now, I will pause the video for a moment and you guys can sign out if you want, but the video will be out there tomorrow. All right, so this is actually following the end of class time. I have a few people kind of hanging out with me here in the session. And we're going to just basically continue where we left off. I have like a combination of like approaches that I've tried still left in here. Right now, I think I'm going to stick with the approach of just kind of sequentially coding it in the main method just to kind of get it done and over with, and get a working version, at least enough to help people kind of earn the points on this is my thinking. So where we kind of left off is we created the objects, we put them in a list, we created a menu, and then it says put the menu in a loop until 0 is chosen. Now I could take this whole menu thing and put it somewhere else, so that's a possibility. One way I could make that happen, and see, now I'm kind of waffling on what I said to you guys before I hit resume on the recording, is I could take like this object creation, put it outside the main method, along with some of these other aspects here, and then drive the program externally. And now I'm kind of leaning towards that approach. So I'm kind of like contradicting myself a little bit. But let's get some of the logic built first before we do that. Okay, so here's how I'm going to kind of think about this, and then we can modularize it. But we proved that this is how you get the product info on the screen. Get product info on screen, right? It works. And when we drop in the product here, the press any key to continue, the read key, that's going to be kind of a repeating thing too. So what I'm seeing is that this displaying the menu and then like showing the product and the read key thing, that those are all going to be in a loop, right? What might make the most sense here is to do a do while loop. And so I'm going to kind of build the loop structure first. And how long are we going to do this? Until that choice is equivalent to what? 0. And I am handling it as a string. And the reason if you're wondering why I'm handling it as a string, is because basically, if you're going to handle error input, so a person could type a number and it's a number, but if they type a letter, then it could potentially break user choice. So why not just make it a string? I can read it as a number, read it as a string, even if it's a number, and still match it up, right? But if you're trying to do the error message kind of thing for the extra credit, that's the why. Now, if I preset this to 0 up top here, the loop will still run, right? So I would take this is the menu. All right, so maybe I can put this in display menu, all of this stuff. So let's do that. I'm going to cut that. And so I'm going to come down here, get rid of all that code, and now it's all in display menu. The products are now not accessible because they're inside, they were created inside the main method. To fix that, I'm going to take all the products that are created. This is my simple fix, by the way. And yes, I could put this in a separate function. I'm just going to create them up here outside the main method. Yeah, I realize all the red underlines, so let's not freak out to those. But they're pre-created up here, so now they should be accessible to most of the program. Not here though, right? It says t-shirt 1 is not null here. That's true. It says an object reference is required for the non-static field method or property program hoodie 2. Okay, whatever. All right, let's just kind of keep working on the logic here. So the while loop then will display the menu. So I'm going to put that here. And so keeping in mind that when the menu displays, all this stuff is going to show up. And then they're going to select. And then based on the selection, so I'm going to follow through on the selection process first. Let's just kind of switch. Based that on choice. And depending on the choice, then we're going to say that, let's say the case is, we don't have to put in a case for 0 because then we'll just exit. But if the case is 1, what's going to happen? Well, we've already proved that if the case is 1, they're going to pick that first t-shirt. So this line of code would actually work. So we can do that. And then, of course, you would break. And then if you do case 2, and now we can just kind of do some copy paste here, you guys. All right. And so we do case 2. Let's see if that formatting kind of fixes itself here as we kind of go. But here we would do t-shirt 2. Then we do case 3. And then what would come to hoodie. Let's spell it right though. Hoodie 1. It's 4. 2. Oops. I really messed that one up really good. All right, let me control Z my way out of this problem here. 2. It's 5. So I actually have 6 products here. And then I think I have cap 1 and cap 2. Cap 1. Yes. 6. Cap 2. And I'm going to do this. Am I missing curly brackets here with my switch statement, you guys? All right, so that would do that. And of course, if the choice equals 0, we pop out. But after we do the switch case, right, then we would do this press any key to continue with the read key. So that would be part of it. I'm just going to cut those, by the way, and that'll go here. Right. So regardless of which one they choose, that's going to be at the end of it. And then if they don't choose 0, then we would pop out. Right? Because I think that makes sense. So, these 2 lines now are relevant. So put a menu in a loop until 0 is chosen. Display the correct product info based on user choice. Prompt. Okay, so these are a little out of order. So we haven't prompted the user for the choice yet, have we? No, we haven't done that. So we're going to display the menu, and then we're going to ask the user to put in their choice. So we're going to say choice equals console read line, right? And it's a string, so do we need to do anything further? No, I don't think so. It doesn't really like this because it says, right, because I don't think I put in that a question mark on choice up above here. So that's probably a smart addition. We'll just do that. Okay, so that fixes, I think, that problem. So we display the menu, we get to the choice, check the choice against the code, we output the correct stuff, press any key to continue, and then, by the way, so for those of you that are watching the video after the fact, if you wanted to check if the input was valid, you would do that after you read it in. So here is where you would check for valid input. I'm not doing it. That's extra credit. You guys do that. If you really want those couple extra points, that's how you would do it. So I think we're good now. We can get rid of these comments. Now we just have to figure out, by the way, how we get rid of the red underline so we can actually run the program. So we're getting pretty close here. And the one way to do it is that, once again, to put it all back inside that main method. And I kind of don't want to do that, but I'm just going to do it. I'm just thinking of time efficiency here. Nobody wants to be here all night long. Let's just do it that way. It gets rid of all the red underlines. We can get rid of these 2 comments. Once again, strictly for time efficiency. All right. Choice. We got our hoodies. We create our list. Display our menu. Output all our stuff. Press any key to continue. And they press 0, we're out. And so for right now, I have these methods here, or excuse me, functions here that we're really not using. And we are calling display menus, but this is not accessible. So in order for it to be accessible, how do we do this here? We would have to set this to public. Would that change it? Right. So I think maybe to fix this here, I need to feed in the product. So I'm just trying that and see if that takes care of the error. It's not taking care of it. All right. So feeding that in is not going to, I'm just going to make sure I'm spelling it all correctly too. That's the product of products. All right. I'm just, once again, time efficiency. I'm kind of getting frustrated with this whole thing. So I'm just going to pull this all out of here. And I'm actually going to cut it just to save time. And instead of display menu, this is normally how we do it, but we can just do it brute force. So we're just switching back to brute force for time. So menus on the screen, we get the choice, maybe check for validity, run the switch case statement, put the stuff on the screen. And this stuff here, we're just going to ignore for now. It's not going to stop the code from running. Nothing's underlining red. Let's go ahead and run it and see if it works. All right, so we're really close here, folks. All right, so where are the build errors? We don't want to run it with build errors, so there is a red underline.
It's because of the choice string.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because that should be. Because I set it as a string, right? Oh, gosh. Keypad is too close. Right, let's just get those double quotes. So really, we just want to make this 0. All right, thank you. So here we go. There's the menu, choose a product. Okay, so I see one little problem. It should be a console right for the prompt. Let's see if it exits. Okay, it doesn't exit. So we got one problem. All right, let's try displaying 1. It worked. And then it dropped me out. Okay, so we got a couple little problems here, but we're really close to the solution. So, all right, so let's fix the prompt problem first. So this should be a right, not a right line. That's fixed. When they choose 0. Oh, yeah, what aren't we doing? So this is why we want to use a display menu function instead. So if I was to display the menu here, really it should be displayed at the bottom. Okay, so here's what we'll do. We'll put the menu. The menu is going to have to come back down here, right? Because press any key to continue, and then it should go back to the menu unless the choice is. You know what? Can I just try this one more time? I want to get a better feel for this. Let's put in 2, right? But then it exits. So why is it exiting after I do a 2? Let's figure that out. Here you go. So here was my problem on this. I made the wrong logic choice here at the end of the do while loop. This should say, well, the choice does not equal 0. That's why when I was pressing a product, it was popping me out. I needed it to do the opposite. So let's run this again. And I think we're kind of okay now. So let's see if it exits. Okay. So if it exits, I don't want this to appear. All right. So I'm going to write a little snippet of code here. So I'm going to say if choice is equivalent to 0, or is it once again the same logic? If the choice is equivalent to 0, or is not equivalent to 0, see the, I'm going to use that reverse logic, then we'll put that stuff on the screen, right? But if it is equal to 0, we'll pop up. So in other words, we don't want this to appear if they choose 0. Let's see if that works. Here it comes. So 0, and then you're out. And in fact, what it should really do is right here after the switch case, we should just have a simple console write line. And they told us what to put in there, right? What did they tell us to put in there? I forget what the message was. Oh, closing application. So we're just going to put that right here. And in fact, I would do this at the beginning of it. Oops. Let's run it one more time and try it. So if I hit 0, okay, good. All right, so that works. I got an extra space in there, but we can get rid of that. No problemo. All right, now let's run it again and try each product. So I got 1. All right. You know, with that menu, so now I'm getting kind of picky, right? So with the menu, let's put in a new line before the menu. So I'm going to break out of there and run it over again. Let's run it again. So choose a product. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so all the products work. 0 pops me out, and I'm all done. Okay, so now it's working completely. Now, you know, if we wanted to ramp this up, and I say, here's where you check for valid input for extra credit. Now, here you guys go. Since you guys hung out in the session, I'm going to pause the recording for a second, and I'm going to let you guys know where to put that extra credit. That's what you get for hanging out. Right on? All right. And if any of you would have hung out here in the session, I would have showed you how to do the invalid input thing. And I would not actually put it here, but that's one place where you can put it. There's actually a simpler solution, and I'll have you think about how this type of selection structure works. And if you think about it long and hard enough, you can figure it out. So we'll call this a solution. This is not the most elegant one. So here is the top of my program with the main method. Set up a string for choice, create my objects, put them in a list. Now granted, okay, so this is kind of an interesting thought here. Do it have to be in a list? Not necessarily, but that's how I chose to do it. So we pull the products into the menu, prompt the user, get their choice, check the choice against the switch case statement, put the appropriate information on the screen. If they type 0, we're out. If they don't type 0, we just loop again. When everything is all done, we say closing application. And although I made a noble attempt in the time I had to do these 2 approaches, I am gonna, in essence, remove them, at least for now. If I decide later to rebuild this with those, I will do that later. There's no harm done leaving them here, but not necessary. All right, folks, we'll call that a solution. And this video ends here.